Episode 7. The meaning of her words was obvious. If it were anyone else, they would definitely understand what she meant, making Rosalyn drink up that glass of wine. If it were anyone else, they would have understood what she meant and apologized to Paul before drinking the wine. Rosalyn knew what she meant, but the words were for Logan to hear, not her, so she determined to play dumb. Frustrated, the woman turned to Logan and reminded him, "Mr. Taylor, without Paul, you wouldn't even have had the chance to meet him, let alone talk about the project," she scolded. "But your girlfriend doesn't even want to drink a glass of wine. How are we going to have fun later?" Rosalyn thought that Logan was familiar with Andrew, but she didn't expect that it was Paul who had introduced them. It seemed that Logan's plan wasn't just to take her to meet a few friends. He also wanted to get a project from Andrew. However, she wasn't too worried since discussing the project would take some time, and she still had a chance to figure out how to get away. With this in mind, Rosalyn's tensed body began to relax, but as she breathed a sigh of relief, Logan suddenly raised his chin and said to her, "Drink it." She couldn't play dumb anymore, so she picked up her glass and drank it with one gulp. Rosalyn seldom drank alcohol. Andrew didn't like the smell of alcohol, so she did not drink at all. Rosalyn choked on a glass of strong alcohol, tears streaming down her face. Logan saw she was choking and held her in his arms, patting her back to help her breathe. Andrew's cold gaze fell on the hand that was holding Rosalyn. Through her teary eyes, Rosalyn seemed to sense Andrew, killing intent in his eyes. But when she looked again, she found nothing in his eyes except indifference and alienation. Rosalyn laughed at herself for expecting more from Andrew, who only saw her as a substitute and never took her seriously. Seeing Rosalyn calm down, Logan hugged her and explained to Paul, "She's not that kind of girl who sells body. That's why she doesn't know how to drink. Please forgive her." Paul smiled and didn't say anything, but the woman next to him suddenly became angry. "Mr. Taylor, what do you mean by that?" Logan raised his eyebrows and said mildly, "Ma'am, I wasn't talking about you. Why are you so worked up?" The woman exploded in an instant. "I'm so much younger than you. How can you call me ma'am? You may be younger than me, but you look older than me. If I don't call you ma'am, what else can I call you?" "You." The woman was retorted into silence. She stomped her foot and turned around, pulling at Paul's sleeve and acting cute. "Paul, look at him. How would he do such mean things to me?" Paul patted her hand and tried to comfort her. "Kayla, you know Mr. Taylor. He didn't mean it." Kayla was unwilling to let Logan off easily. Although she used to be a top prostitute in the nightshade, she didn't want to hear the word selling again now that she was with Paul. She couldn't argue with Logan, but she could deal with his woman. "Let's forget about it. We're here just to have fun. But sitting here is boring. Why don't we play a game?" Hearing the word game, everyone became interested. "What game?" Kayla took out a few decks of cards and placed them on the table. "Let's play a team card game. The losing team must take off one piece of clothing." "Interesting." Logan was thrilled with the idea, and he agreed right away. And the other men would not resist the temptation either. Concerned that Andrew might not be used to such activities, Paul turned his head and glanced at him. "Andrew, they often play like this. If you don't want to." Before he could finish his sentence, Andrew took a card from Kayla. "How do we play?" Paul was shocked. His cousin had always avoided such places, yet today, just because Logan invited him to meet a woman who looked like Ms. Moore, he had agreed to come and was now patiently playing games with them. That was odd. Kayla didn't expect Andrew, who was rumored to be uninterested in women, to be so easygoing and willing to play with them. She immediately smiled. "It's very simple. Let me explain the rules to you." After explaining the rules, Kayla gathered everyone to draw lots and form teams. Rosalyn sat stiffly on the sofa, not sure what to do. Just as she was hesitating about how to refuse, Kayla seemed to read her mind and spoke up first. Everyone has to participate. Ms. Bell, are you not going to turn me down in front of everybody, right? All eyes turned to Rosalyn, making her feel uncomfortable as if not playing would ruin the fun for everybody. She could not afford to offend anyone here, so she could only force herself to participate. Seeing that Rosalyn was willing to comply, Kayla didn't say any more words. Let's draw lots now. Each pair that draws the same numbers has to switch seats. And no sitting next to each other. Kayla put the paper balls on the table and paired up those who drew the same number automatically. There were 4 players in the first round, and the others would line up. Those who got the numbers 1 or 2 played first. Unfortunately, Rosalyn got the number 2. She raised her eyes to look at the other side. It turned out that Andrew had gotten the number 1, which meant they were in a hostile situation. Kayla, who had also gotten the number 1, raised her eyebrows at Rosalyn as if to say, "Wait and see. What about the other 2? Who got it?" After hesitating momentarily, Paul opened the paper ball in his hand. He smiled at Rosalyn and said, "I'm not good at playing cards. I have to count on you." Rosalyn responded with a smile that was uglier than crying. She was a well-behaved girl who always listened to the orphanage director when she was young, listened to her teachers in school, listened to her boss in the workplace, and listened to her man in relationships. Therefore, she had never played card games until now. When Kayla explained the rules earlier, she spoke so fast that Rosalyn didn't remember them at all. And even Paul, who often played such games, seemed clueless about how to play. Was this intentional? Rosalyn couldn't help but suspect that Kayla cheated during the drawing lots. Kayla flipped her fingers a few times and handed her the last card. "Ms. Bell, it's time to start." This charming voice made Rosalyn feel uneasy. Her heart raced as she realized that if she lost a game, she would have to take off her dress completely. This was the only thing she wore. It felt like being stripped naked in front of everyone like a prostitute. Kayla was using the game to vent her anger on her after Logan had insulted her by saying, "Not that kind of girls who sell their bodies." Rosalyn knew what was happening, but the cards in her hand were terrible. In addition, coupled with Paul's sloppy play, she was getting anxious and sweating profusely. However, Andrew remained stubborn and refused to back down. Even if she played the smallest card, he would use the much bigger number to suppress her. Frustration boiled inside of her, turning her face blue. Seeing this, Logan quickly put her on his lap and comforted her. "Don't worry, I'll teach you." Rosalyn was so focused on the cards that she did not notice that she was already sitting on Logan's lap. She turned around and asked Logan, "How could we combine them into a continuous card?"
Full story is available at novelpalace.com. Click the link in the comment section to get it free.